a few years back, we were told that we have, certain deposits in Turkana and other places. How far is that? What are we doing? What are some of the effects? And if you look at, the economic drivers, those sectors that you are referring to also relate to revenue streams, for government, etc. But so what must we do locally, even as we look at these global recession ramifications?
I think globally, locally, there's several things that have to happen. And let's park the issue of Turkana for now.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we look at the structure of the use of fuel, our transport infrastructure and system in this country is highly inefficient.
Yeah.
When you look at the number of vehicles that are sort of parked on a road on average at peak times, and they're all burning fuel,
Yes.
and that fuel is going nowhere. It's just going up in smoke, not action, not movement or anything. That needs to be taken care of. And you will then remove a lot of the cost. So our road infrastructure, we are almost literally about 20 years behind where we should be.
Wow.
I think we only started, with the Thika Expressway, Thika Highway. That was the first big spike. And then after that, it took a bit of time to start building roads that should have been done 30 years ago in Kenya. Yeah, the ring roads that are happening and all these link feed roads inside Nairobi should have been done a long time ago. We should not be having, overpasses like the expressway. That should be that's what they should be building.
Yeah.
And then the highways connecting the different towns again.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that internally we need to start doing so that we have an efficient road transport system. The second thing is vehicle occupancy. If you see the number of single occupancy vehicles in this city, it's very, very high. And a lot of people are doing that just because of convenience, to get them from A to B. We need to get our mass transit systems in place, right? And the mass transit systems in place, we don't use fuel, we use electricity. Right? And if you start looking at all these small incremental items, they could lead to a very big shift in terms of the demand of hydrocarbon inside Kenya. And the more sustainable we go, the better that would be. And then when you start talking about Turkana then doesn't become one of the things you're looking for in this country. Turkana, as we sit now, the discovery of oil in Turkana was done almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then from the discovery to a point where you say we have enough to be able to invest took about 6 years, right? And at that point, then the decision was we now need to start thinking about how to get the oil out of the ground. And then you found that the Tullow then decided to start taking some quantity out to go and see what it would look like in the global market. And they did that. And they said, it's a heavy crude. It is sweet but heavy. And therefore, it can be sold on the global market. The quantities that we have is such that if we were to bring it to market and send it out, it would only get us what you call the crude price. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if you look at that differential of that going out and the product we bring in, we still have a delta. We'll still be at a deficit because we are taking out crude. And there's something which you call, the crack, which is the difference between the price of crude going out and the price of product coming in.
Yeah.
And if you look at diesel, it's about $30 per ton, right? So we still have to pay that on a delta. And for I think for gasoline, it's about 15. Yeah. So it is not an answer as such. The opportunity of Turkana, if we are to be serious as a country, is to convert it into higher value products, value addition, right? And that would mean investing in not a refinery, but what I call a petrochemical complex. Because a refinery only brings you to gasoline and all the rest of it. That is not value addition.
Yeah.
Value addition is when you go from crude oil to things like polypropylene, propylene, ethylene. You go to fertilizer. So propylene and ethylene are used as inputs into manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah. You can go into fertilizer. You can go into textiles. You can go into pharmaceuticals. all those things, that is where you really get value out of the hydrocarbon, right? But to do that, we would need to have the production, the capacity of about 400,000 barrels per day.
Okay.
That is the minimum economic size globally. And that is why our refinery shut down, because it was too small. Yeah, it could not compete with the 400,000, 500,000 barrels a day refineries in the Middle East. At that level is when you really begin to become a petrochemical complex. Now, we will probably at the best be producing about 150 to 200,000 barrels a day from Turkana. So to make that work, we should have had to talk Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan.
Yeah.
Right? If you put those three together, what they have found in Uganda, what you found here, and what South Sudan is producing already, we'd get to about 500, 600,000 barrels per day. And put in a facility that when you look at the bigger the bigger region, would actually begin to add value and impact on the economies of all three countries. But a political discussion on that is not easy. It's not easy. So Turkana for me is not going to answer our question.
Okay.
Right? We are still going to have a deficit, as I said, that crack, the crack differential between crude oil and product will still be there.